Okay, you watched the video, right? And you also saw the notes that I typed into the chat. Yes or no? Okay, whenever they read something that is very different from us, I actually put it down for you. You saw it, right? Okay, so when we talk about the changes of state, did you notice that it's actually a bit different from what we call it in Singapore? Right? So it doesn't matter because different countries, they do have different terms. And does it mean that we are wrong and they are right?
We have so many.
Or, we are right, they are wrong? No, because their syllabus is slightly different. The way they word the terms are different. Okay, so doesn't matter. We just follow what we learn in Singapore. I'm going to show you. Okay, so the changes in state you have seen just now. They call this process, from solid to liquid fusion. They say it's fusion. What do we call it in Singapore? I type it into the chat, right? Okay, it should be known as melting. Like solid ice become liquid water. That process, we call it melting, right? So this is not fusion. Over here, we call this process melting. Okay, vaporization, when liquid changes to a gas, two different terms we use. We either call it boiling. Okay, if let's say we provide the heat, put a pot of water on the stove. Okay, after a while it starts boiling at the boiling point, right? Yeah, that is called boiling. Okay, or we can call it evaporation. Evaporation takes place all the time. Like if let's say I spill a glass of water on the floor, by tomorrow it would have dried, right? Not there's no heating involved, but the water can evaporate on its own. How many of you already know this? Do y'all know about the change of states? No response. Can type into the chat. Have you all seen this before? The changes of state? Yes or no? Kalista, have you seen this before? The changes of state? Yes, okay. Yeah, now I feel better because none of you responded to me. I was thinking, is this something that y'all don't know? You should know already, right? Okay, so we actually call this either boiling or evaporation. Condensation is the same, right? So when gas changes to a liquid, for example, water vapor changes to water droplets, we call it condensation. And then solidification, we actually call it freezing. Like when we put water into the freezer, okay, water will change to ice, right? Freezing has taken place. So you can see it inside the chat. I type it there. Hi, Clarice, you just came in, so you might have missed out a little bit. So what we did was we went through the topic on matter. So they have seen the video. Why did I choose to show you this video is because the particle arrangement, when your teacher teach you about matter, some schools will not show the particle arrangement inside the matter. But it is very useful to actually talk about it, to know it, because it's going to help you understand how come, for example, I can actually have more gas being pumped into a container, okay, without the volume increasing. Okay, later on, we will be looking at it again. All right, so let's go on. Okay, Anna hung in an inflated balloon at one end of the balance. Okay, so this is the inflated balloon. Then there's a deflated balloon at the other end of the balance. So the balance is actually designed such that, you have this particular rod right in the center attached to another rod. Okay, so it's right at the center. So the balance works like this. So if I have two inflated balloons, then of course they will be horizontal, right? But because one balloon is inflated, one balloon is deflated, okay, of course it's going to be different. What's the meaning of inflated and what's the meaning of deflated? Anyone wants to tell me? What's the meaning of inflated? Type it into the chat. It's okay. Just try. Remember, the faster you give me your answers, the more you participate, the earlier we can complete our worksheet, right? And then I can show you, maybe I can play with you 2 games of booklet, 2 rounds of booklet. So what's the meaning of inflated balloon? And what's the meaning of deflated? Yeah, I see you're typing in. Very good. Kalisa, you really, really look like your sister, you know. I still remember last Wednesday when I was having lesson with her. I started wondering, I thought you attended my class yesterday. Remember? Then I asked you to join in the class so that I can see your face when your sister was having the lesson. You recall? Yeah? Okay, so inflated means it is filled with air. Very good. Yeah, so I have seen your responses. Very good. Okay, deflated means there's no air inside, right? Good. Deflated. All right. So good. So now we can see the reason why the balloon is causing, the inflated balloon is causing the balance to move downwards to the right. Okay, what is the property of air that she's trying to test? Okay, I can see your responses also. Hold on. Yeah, the property that she is trying to test is, okay. So I saw your answers. Okay, in fact, not many of you did this. Only 2 of you. Clarice, your responses are all blank. Is it because you tried 2 times? The second time you download a blank worksheet? Do you do your work? You did. Okay, because I cannot see your answers here. I can show you all what I'm seeing, okay? Yeah. So actually, we are trying to test the property on air having mass. So air has mass. Okay. So if you have written down, okay, for example, if I show you your answer, can you see my screen? Can see, right? Yeah. So your answers for Clarice, it seems like it's all blank. Okay. Myra says property of air she's trying to test is mass. All right. Air does not have a definite shape. Zoe is not testing on whether air has definite shape or not. Okay, because you see that the balance, right, is tilted to one side. Tilted to one side means it's heavier on one side. Okay, in order to talk about heavy or light, we are referring to mass. Okay, so air has mass. So Myra, the way you're answering, the property of air she is trying to test is mass. Property of air is you should be writing air has mass, like matter has mass. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Okay, you should be writing down air has mass. Okay, not just mass. You understand? Okay, mass is like a kind of measurement, right? So our property here is air has mass. Be very careful. Okay, so the next question. Right. So it's important that you try the question, then I can comment on your answer. Right. So Anna untied the inflated balloon and it became flat. When it became flat, it has become deflated. So what property of air does it show? It shows that air takes up space. Okay, that's correct. Air takes up space. So when you release the air from the balloon becomes flat. No more space required. All right. Zoe, if I look at your answer, you said that air can be compressed, right? Okay, so this is your answer. Air can be compressed. Be very careful. This is the wrong property that you are referring to. How do you show that air can be compressed? What is the experiment that will help you to confirm that air can be compressed? Anyone want to share? What would you do to prove that air can be compressed? Nobody want to try. So quiet today. No one? You sure? How do you tell? How do you prove to someone that air can be compressed? For example, you want to prove to mistake. Okay, you need to highlight something, to describe something to me, to tell me that air can be compressed. What would you do? Nobody has any idea. Have you ever seen any videos or your teacher's demonstration? Maybe a syringe, right? There's nothing in the syringe, there's just air. Yeah, Myra, try. Unmute yourself. Very good.
If you put air inside the syringe and put your finger at the end of the syringe, if you try to compress the syringe, you can only compress it very little.
Yeah, it shows that air can be compressed, right? Yeah, so you can still compress just very little. And why is it that you can't compress all the way? Because air takes up space.
It's a form of matter and takes up space.
Yes, that's right. Very good. So that is the way to show that air can be compressed. Okay, Zoe? All right. So in this case, you did not compress the air. You actually let the air out of the balloon. Is it okay, Zoe? Be careful, Yeah, good. Thank you so much, Myra. So now Anna wanted to pack some clothes for her school trip, but it took up too much space in her luggage. So she flattened the clothes before sealing the bag as shown below. How would the mass of the clothes change after they are flattened? Explain your answer. Explain your answer. How will the mass change? Okay, so originally it was like that. Okay, this is a bag with so many pieces of clothing. Okay, so after she actually flattened it, have you all done this kind of packing before for holiday? Yeah, I'm doing it now because I'm going to Korea on Thursday and we are bringing a lot of winter clothes, right? You know, winter clothes are very thick, correct or not? So I need to have more space to keep 4 people's clothes inside a luggage. So I must make sure I have this bag which will help me to compress my clothes in. Okay, what I did was I used a vacuum after I seal up, right? I used a vacuum to suck out all the air inside. Okay, and then when I actually weigh it, okay, it actually weigh lesser. Do you know why lesser? You can unmute yourself. It's a very small group now, so you just unmute yourself. Unless you know there are a lot of students are then very difficult. Myra?
Because air the air has mass.
Very good. That is the perfect answer. So now you see this one bag with the clothes, not just the clothes, what else is inside? Okay, there is actually air as well. So I can put down plus air. Okay, so now this is bag with clothes. It's so flat. Okay, I can put down no air. So the air has been released out of the bag, right? Yeah, correct. Air has mass, that's right. So yes, Kalista, good. Air has mass. So when we answer this question, we have to be very careful. Okay. If you look at the bag very carefully, there is actually quite a lot of air here. But in this bag, the air has been forced out of the bag. It's very, very flat. I have the example in my luggage now. Very, very flat. It was so huge. Big, fat plastic bag of